It has the girl from, what is that show? Why can't I remember? It's a good thing that I'm not in charge
Your brain is so broken
today.
today. It's going to be hilarious. Hello and welcome to Book Retorts. I'm Sam.
I'm Danielle.
And this is the podcast where one of us will share a piece of strange media that the other person doesn't really know anything about.
Yay.
Yeah. So this week we are continuing our exploration of Larry Niven's book Ringworld, which we started last episode and will most likely finish on the next episode. So if you're coming to this one, you're right in the middle. It may not make a whole lot of sense. It may not make a whole lot of sense anyway. So really, take your chances.
Will it matter? Really?
Well, we're going to find out. So, a couple of housekeeping things. I think last week I made a mistake when I was rattling off a bunch of numbers about the dimensions of the Ringworld. So,
and that
just
matters,
for
everybody.
Look, I'm going to get tweets or emails about this, I know. So, I'm just going to correct that now. The walls of the Ringworld are not 1,000 feet high, they're 1,000 miles high. So, a slight difference.
I didn't even remember there were walls.
Yeah, well, you got that one for free, Danielle. That's a freebie because of my mistake.
Okay.
So, sounds like you're eager to give the summary of what we talked about last week.
I'm not eager. Okay.
Well, Danielle, in that case, I'm going to give you an out. If you can tell me the fake swear word that they use in this book, I will let you off the hook for this week's recap.
I definitely cannot. Does it start with an F?
It does not.
Maybe I'm thinking of another one.
Oh, I'm sure. Ooh, survey says you're out of time, Danielle. I'm afraid you don't get the prize.
Bummer.
But your consolation prize is to do the recap. So please, Danielle, tell me what happened last time, because I don't remember.
There was no way I was going to get that. That was an unfair test.
There was a very small chance you were, and if you did, it would have been wildly impressive.
You only mentioned it like twice, right at the beginning, and then you brought it back towards the end, like, oh, and by the way, they're still using this word throughout the book. So how was I supposed to remember that word?
You remembered I mentioned it.
Well, I'm really,
so,
I'm good at that kind of memory.
Look, Danielle, I can only do so much. I wanted to give you a lifeline, but I can't make it too easy, otherwise there's no stakes.
Okay. All right. So let's see. It started with the main guy.
Remember his name?
No.
Okay, he's got the most normal name of anybody in the book.
Peter.
It's Louis.
John.
Louis.
Oh, I should remember that, of course.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
it's like the most basic name for a sci-fi character.
Okay, well, Louis, it's his birthday, and it's like his 200-something birthday.
Yeah, 200th birthday, yeah.
And he just left his party, and he's a professional explorer. And,
pretty much,
and
yeah.
he left his birthday, and he's trying to stay ahead of the dateline so that his birthday lasts forever. And he somehow... Oh, he's transporting, and he gets... I don't know why he's transporting, but he's transporting, and he gets like...
That's just how they get around the world.
So he's like kidnapped into a hotel room by some kind of creature with puppeteer in the name.
Pearson's Puppeteer.
Woo! Okay, halfway there.
Which is an alien, yes. Do you remember what it looks like?
It has like 3 heads. 2 heads? 3 heads.
2 heads.
2 heads. And then the brain is like not in either head.
It's in the middle, like a hump between the 2 heads. And it has how many legs?
A lot.
3. You were so close. 3 legs, 2 heads.
And it basically kidnaps him, and it tells him that they want to get his services to help with something.
Something, yes.
Wait, let me get there. To help with... I don't remember why.
They're going on an expedition.
Yeah, I knew that because that's why they chose him.
They found an anomaly somewhere, and they want to hire him as part of a team to investigate it.
So, what does the anomaly matter? Do we know that yet?
We do know what the anomaly is. Not at this point in the story, though. But we do know that because it's brought up later in this book, or at least later in the part we covered last time. So, you should know.
Oh.
It's also the title of the book.
Well, Ringworld, but I Is that what the anomaly is? Is that
Yes!
Oh, really?
Yeah. Are you serious? The whole book is them getting to the giant rings.
No,
and you're like, well, what's the anomaly that they're going to investigate?
I didn't realize that Ringworld was an anomaly. I thought there was like an anomaly near Ringworld or something. I didn't realize it was the
Ringworld was just sort of incidental. Oh, this is this giant, amazing megastructure no one in the universe has ever seen. But let's go investigate this, like, cloud of weird dust nearby, and ignore it.
You know that I, like, zoned out while you were explaining the 3 minutes that you were talking about getting to Ringworld. That was a completely different part you zoned out. That was a completely different part. I mentioned them going to the Ringworld several times. At the end of the last part of the book, they actually crashed on the Ringworld, which I'm giving that away. Yes,
but really to make the point that the Ringworld features prominently throughout a lot of the book.
I just didn't connect it to being the anomaly, probably because I instantly forgot that's what he was doing, was looking for an anomaly. Anyway, not the point.
Wow.
I mean, it's the point, but it's not the point.
I don't know if that's my fault or your fault, but one of us really messed up last time.
So, he takes Louis. He's going to give him a ship, a super fast, amazing ship and the plans of the ship in order to find out this anomaly.
Hey, that's good. That's very good.
That
you got
part.
that. Yeah, you got all the business transactions, but not like the title of the book, right?
I really did not realize it was the anomaly. Okay. And they decide they're going to put together a little team. And on the team, there are 4 people, 4 things, 4 creatures.
Yes.
And it's a lucky girl who has lucky genes.
What's her name?
Lucky Jean girl.
Okay.
Jeannie.
Teela Brown.
Oh, yeah, no. Wasn't going to remember that. And it doesn't even sound familiar. And there was...
This is your favorite thing, Danielle. You got to remember this one.
No, there was a Kentucky.
There you go, which is not what it's called.
I told you I'd stick with it. You didn't believe I'd remember it, but I did.
I figured if you could remember any part of this, it would be the part you made up.
Yeah, it's not called that, though. It's like Kazan?
Kazin. K-Z-I-N.
Yeah, Kazin. And it's a cat creature. It's like an 8-foot tall cat creature.
Yeah. Fierce warrior species.
Cross between a Wookiee and a Klingon.
That's how I describe it. Although this book predates both of those things.
Yes, that's why it's a Kentucky. And then there is the adventure, and then there's some other...
Puppeteer.
The puppeteer. Oh, but there were other characters. There's just those 4 were the main ones, right?
Those are the ones who were going on the expedition. Do you remember the puppeteer's name?
No, because I got him confused with that other character.
He's Nessus. Or Nessus, but I prefer Nessus.
Nessus.
I don't think it matters.
So there's 4 of them, and then they go to get the ship. I don't remember anything that happened prior to that. They gotta go to ship.
They basically hung around Earth for a while, looking for lucky people, and the only one they could find was Teela, who eventually agreed to get with them.
Right, because it was her luck that was making her stay.
Or something. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Anyway, so the 4 of them go on a trip to find this
Daniel,
anomaly.
I have to interrupt. I'm sorry. Because during that part, we learn about the amazing part, which is the fertility board and all the crazy ways you can get reproductive rights on Earth, right?
I forgot about that.
It isn't really important to the story, but it is crazy. So I really wanted to bring that back up, that you can have a gladiatorial battle to earn your right to mate. Yes,
or you can pay for it, or you can... kill somebody?
Well, that's the gladiatorial battle I mentioned, yes.
Yes. What's the other one? There's like another third way.
There's the lottery.
Oh, the lottery. That's what it is.
Or you can also achieve some great thing. Like, if you're a genius or whatever, you can also get the right. And
then you can go ahead and have birth.
Them babies.
And then the other ones, was it the Kentuckys, to have non-sentient partners?
Yeah, their females are non-sentient, which is all kinds of problematic.
And then the puppeteers have the threesomes with 1 non-sentient.
Yeah, again,
so many non-sentient.
Really problematic.
So many. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure that was clear, because it seems like an insane detail, and I'm not sure why it's there, but it really sticks with you.
Maybe it comes back at the end.
Oh, man, I hope so.
So they go on a journey in their ship. Some character tries to, like, double cross. That's the word I was looking for. Double cross them.
Yeah, that's a Kizin. What's the Kizin's name?
Something song talks water.
Speaker to animals.
That wasn't even close.
You were not even close.
Speaker to animals.
Yeah,
And
he tries to hijack the expedition and to steal the ship.
that's right. He's like the diplomat who talks to the humans.
Yeah, he got it. He remembered.
And so he tries to hijack the ship. Oh, and then the other character, the puppeteer, uses his magic gill to like make him feel pleasure so much that he stops.
Yeah, so he has a TASP, which is a device that stimulates the pleasure center of the brain from afar and can make you addicted to it if you use it too much.
Right. So the character was like, okay, I give up.
He capitulated immediately.
Yeah, as one would.
Yeah.
And then they're traveling towards the Ringworld. Does something happen before that?
They stop by the puppeteer home planet, which is the Kemplerler arrangement of planets.
That's right. Kemplerler.
You were never going to remember that, Kemplerer. I believe that's what the word is. I could be mistaking Kemplerer, but you were never going to remember that word, so I decided I'd give it to you.
Thanks. And then they end up on the Ringworld, and as they're going, the one character that was driving the ship decides to use autopilot, and then something about the autopilot thinking there's an asteroid because they're facing the planet.
No, they're going towards the sun. Like, they're driving towards the sun to investigate the shadow squares, which create the day-night cycle. There are a bunch of squares orbiting the sun in of the ring, so they cast a shadow on the ring that moves around it like a day-night cycle.
And then it crashes into the line that doesn't have a helicopter ball on it like it should, or any kind of flag warning.
Helicopter. Okay, yes. So they get blasted by an X-ray meteor defense system, an automated defense system from the ring, because they'll say they're going to crash into the ring. So the ring's like, oh, gotta blast that asteroid out of the way.
Yes.
And it disables their ship. And
then they crash land on the planet. And they couldn't talk to the planet when nobody was responding. So they're wondering what happened to the Ringworld. And I think that was the end of the...
And that's where we left off. Danielle, you did it!
Then nothing happens. That's like 3 things.
Yeah, no. So what I probably didn't make clear in the previous part is this book is a book not about story, really, but about investigation, about discovery. So most of this book is setting up mysteries like where do all the ring people go? And what's the Ringworld? And how does hyperspace work? And then spends a lot of time talking about it and fleshing out the world and having the characters speculate and give theories to each other. So while it's very light on actual story, it's very heavy on sort of speculation and, sharing ideas and discovery, which is fine, which is very interesting to read, but makes it kind of difficult to summarize in a way that is not just like a lecture.
I don't know. My summary was pretty good.
Well, you only summarized like 3 things, as you mentioned. So, that
don't
was
take this away from me,
some
Sam.
pages.
I got them to the Ringworld. Come on.
You got them to the Ringworld, which you didn't realize was the actual goal of the book. So,
I knew it was the goal. That's not fair. I knew it was the goal of the book. I did not tie it into it being the anomaly. I just thought there was like anomaly in that area and they were crash landing on the Ringworld. Like that was my thought process.
The Ringworld was just sort of like coincidentally in the same place?
Well, that it obviously was going to be tied into the anomaly. I didn't realize it was the anomaly.
Okay, well, maybe I didn't make that clear enough. Again, I had to gloss over quite a bit of detailed world building that may or may not be relevant. I'm not sure. We'll see how this book goes.
Okay. So what happens? They crash into the planet.
Before we get to that, actually, I want to just do something I didn't do last time. I want to read a few of the chapter titles for what we'll be covering today because they're kind of awesome.
You did do the first 2 last time.
I did the first 2, which was Louis, Wu, and his motley crew, and I liked it because it rhymed. So, I'm a simple man.
Yes. Very simple.
We're starting with the chapter, The Ring Floor. Then it goes to The Arch of Heaven, Fist of God, Starseed Lure, Interlude with Sunflowers, Dream Castle, The Map Room, The Eye of the Storm. And that's where we'll stop this particular portion of the book. So,
did you say Starseed Lord?
Lure. Lure.
Starseed Lure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm probably just going to skip that chapter because it doesn't matter. But
but it has the best title.
I don't know. I think Fist of God is pretty good. Also, Interlude with Sunflowers.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
Yeah, okay. I'll touch on it briefly. It's really not terribly relevant.
Okay.
But it is, you'll see. Anyway, so they crash land. They were in stasis while they were crashing, so they wake up and they've plowed this 1,000-mile-long groove into the ring because they were going so fast when they crashed into it. And they've carved through the dirt down to the very base of the ring, which is the super slick, almost frictionless, and impossibly hard material that makes up the ring itself.
Okay, so it's like made out of some kind of metal-y thing?
It's some kind of mystery metal. None of them know what it is. It's part of the reason they're so interested in the ring, because they couldn't imagine something of that tensile strength and of that kind of composition. It defies their current understanding of technology. So that's part of what they're going to investigate. They've crash landed. Their ship is sort of cocked at a 35-degree angle or whatever, 30-degree angle.
I was just thinking that the angle was so wildly specific.
That's what it says in the book. This guy loves to give you all the details for everything. And so Louis is putting on his suit. He's going to go investigate if the air is breathable or not. And Teela just sort of jumps out the airlock just immediately into the unknown atmosphere.
Does. That sounds like a terrible idea. Do they have like little devices that read the atmosphere so they know
on
whether
their
or not...
suits? So the ones that were on the ship were blown apart when they had their altercation with the ring's defense system.
Of course.
But they have ones on their suits. But Teela just ignores that and jumps out.
Does she die? No, because she's lucky.
So this is the kind of thing, like, at this point, you really start to hate Teela because she reminds you of that person who just led a charmed life, despite a person who makes no effort and does nothing to improve themselves and just works out for them. You know, I kind of hate that person.
Yes.
That's Teela. But instead of just coming from a wealthy family or whatever, she is literally destined by the universe to be taken care of. And so you really don't like her. At least I find myself being like, I don't like her.
Just because it seems unfair. You like,
yeah,
people
exactly.
work so much harder in life, and she doesn't have to work hard at all. Whatever she does is correct.
Yes, exactly right. And Louis starts to feel a bit resentful towards her as well. In this point, and we'll get to that in a second, he's like, she's never had any hardship. She's never had any challenges. She just doesn't get it. She doesn't understand that it could be dangerous out there because nothing's ever presented danger to her before. Mm-hmm. And so he follows her out quickly to make sure she's okay. But of course, the air is totally fine. And he's looking around, and they've plowed this giant valley, and there's like molten rock on either side of them from the heat of their landing. And off in the distance, there's this giant, impossibly large mountain that they're going to be using as sort of a reference point.
Good idea.
Speaker to animals and Nisus come out eventually, and they are like talking what to do, and they decide eventually that Louis, who is wearing the suit, should go up and take a look around to see if there's anything nearby that might be useful. So he starts to climb up the lava wall, and he's wearing his heat protective suit, so he's fine. And Teela decides to follow him in her regular, what he calls ship slippers.
She's so stupid.
She is. And he's like, well, I could tell her not to, but I'm going to let her learn this the hard way. And so she steps into the lava and she burns her feet and like jumps down and like pouts for a while. Cause like, how'd you let me burn my feet? That was mean. He's like, well, you had to learn to be careful somehow. Otherwise, things like that's going to happen.
Wouldn't it be hot? Like as you approach it, wouldn't you think, oh, this is awfully hot?
I don't know how long it's been since they crashed. Maybe it had cooled enough that like a crust over it or something. I don't know.
Sure, but you'd still feel the heat emanating from it.
She didn't figure it out, Danielle. All right, she just sort of followed him with mindless abandon without even considering the consequences.
Oh, Teela.
Yes, Teela Brown. So he comes back down and says, I looked around, there's nothing but a giant mountain and nothing at all for as far as I could see. And they eventually figure out they're about in the middle of the ring, so about 500,000 miles from either edge. Mm-hmm. And they decide that they need to get to the edge of the ring because that's where they get onto and off of the rings at the edge. It's like the ports. So that's where you're going to find civilization if there is any.
I mean, that does make sense in some ways, but also space travel. Can't they just land in the middle of the ring if they wanted to?
So again, I glossed over this, but the ring is spinning at 770 miles per second.
Okay.
And so you can't just have a ship land on it because it's spinning very quickly and it has to match the inertial velocity. So they have these giant, like a linear accelerator cannon ring things. So the ship will get picked up by these rings and accelerated to match the speed of the ring. And those are built at the edge of the ring so the ship can get there without having to like land in the atmosphere and be accelerated that way.
Got it. Mostly. Sure. I'm willing to go with it. Let's go.
It's all in there, Danielle. If you want to figure out all the details, they're in there. I just figured that might not make for a very interesting retelling.
No, I was just curious why they couldn't just land in the middle of the ring. That was my only question. I got it.
The answer to that question, Danielle, is complicated.
Apparently complicated. More complicated than I imagined.
So anyway, they decide to head for the edge, and they have these hover cycles on the ship, so they all get on their little hover cycles, and they start flying off about 1,000 feet up in the air, so they're zipping across.
Did Teela put on a suit?
None of them are wearing suits at this point, because they did all the readings, the atmosphere is safe, the temperature is safe, they're all just hunky-dory. It's basically like Earth, and that'll be a common theme, is how close to Earth-like this place is.
Is it the future Earth? Did they build it to be the future Earth?
Humans didn't build this, no.
Okay.
Now,
it's an anomaly, I don't know.
I don't remember how it ends, but there might be some common ancestor or some link between humanity and these engineers who built the ring. I don't remember that, but that seems like a very sci-fi tropey thing that would happen.
Okay. So they're buzzing around on their machines, their air motorcycles.
So Nisus and Louis are talking with Teela, and they're like, Teela, your fight is a good luck charm. Clearly, you didn't get luck because we got blown out of the sky and crashed on this planet. So your luck clearly wasn't as pronounced as we thought it was.
Okay, but how would you... I mean, it depends on the end result, not necessarely what's happening in the moment. So how would you know until you're done?
Well, again, what is done? By the time when her life is over, that's look at the time scale. And so they're speculating that the reason they couldn't find anyone else to go on the expedition besides Teela was because they were all lucky enough to avoid going on this doomed expedition. And Teela was unlucky enough to be trapped onto it.
I'd like it if her genes were actually unlucky genes.
Yeah. So I'm not saying they're right or wrong. I'm just saying the characters flip-flop very much on Teela's lucky powers immediately.
I mean, that's fair, because how would you wouldn't know until you know.
So while they're flying around, at one point, Nisus goes sort of catatonic with fear, just because they're up high and the scale is immense.
Oh, that's because Nisus is the scared one, right?
Their whole culture is based around, we would say cowardice, they would say prudent caution.
Yeah, I forgot to say that in my summary. Not that I remembered it until this moment.
That's what to say. So, as they're flying, they notice the air pressure increases. That might come up later. I don't remember if it does, but I'm just going to mention it. There are lots of little details they mention. I think these are all sort of clues to what's going on about the ring. They'll all be revealed at the end. So, I'm going to give them to you. Okay. They might not be relevant.
Not that
and you'll
they'll
forget
help
them
me
anyway.
at all.
So, yeah. And at one point, they say, we know that this civilization has returned to savagery. Why else would they allow vast regions to return to desert?
What kind of logic is that? Oh, there's a desert. They must be savages.
They come to the conclusion that this massive civilization has reverted to savagery almost immediately. As soon as they don't get any response from the ring, like, are they all savages? They crash on the ring. Hey, they're deserts. Are they savages? They are so easily convinced that this is savagery. Now, of course, they're right, but I feel like that logic should not be rewarded.
No, that's not. That's ridiculous logic. There could be so many reasons why some place is not responding to you and why they're in deserts.
Yeah, no. Maybe people like deserts. We have deserts on this planet. Some people like the desert. I just want to point out, they make some tremendous leaps in logic. This is a third-person book, but we mostly follow Lewis's perspective. Mm-hmm. And eventually he knows that Teela has sort of zoned out, and he's like, land the bikes. She has plateau trance.
What's plateau trance?
Good question. He's going to spend a lot of time explaining it to us, but I'll tell you short. It's like a self-hypnosis. When you stare off into infinity, you sort of hypnotize yourself into a catatonic state.
Sure. I mean, I'll buy that as a thing.
So they land, and they just sort of let her sit for a while until she comes out of it. But as they're landing, here's the big reveal. They see people.
Ooh. Are they savages?
Yes.
Plot twist.
Yeah, right. The natives were in the middle of a broad section of stream. They were working a fishing net. So it's back to a sort of hunter-gatherer society. They look very humanoid.
Are you really a savage if you're fishing?
Again, this is a relative perspective from a spacefaring civilization that could build the ring. They are comparatively savage. Like, we would be considered savages, I think, to this level of technology.
Sure. Is this like a metaphor for colonialism or something?
Probably not intentionally.
Okay,
but
just curious where the plot was going.
In 1970s, a lot of the ideas here are very, I don't want to say like wrong, but there's a lot of sort of problematic gender roles. Obviously, with the non-sentient females and the fact that Teela Brown
that's actually
is like,
wrong, though.
It is. That's wrong in a way of that should not be a thing. But like also having Teela Brown be the one female character that has a name in the book, really, and the fact that she is very emotional and naive and needs to be protected from herself, kind of, is also somewhat problematic.
Oh, old sci-fi. We love you, but we hate you.
Yeah, lots of old sci-fi. You read it, and you're like, oh, this is really good. And they mention something about women. You're like, ooh, no.
That's not real good.
No, that's not good.
So they find some fishing people.
Yeah, so they land for a while, and they avoid them initially. And they go hang out while Teela regains her senses. And Nisus mentions how he wished he had brought what was called a starseed lure, which is a device that calls a starseed, which is a thing that another alien species follows. And they could have used that and called this thing to the star here. So other alien species would follow that thing.
Wait,
and they could
what?
get rescued.
I don't know. I don't understand anything you just said.
There's so much I'd have to go into to make it clear. But starseeds are these things that float around space.
And they lure other creatures to it.
And other creatures follow them as, like, farm animals. And those are I think they're called the Outsiders, if I remember. Those are the ones who sold humanity their first hyperspace drive. So Nice is like, if we had a starseed lure, I could have done that. We would have waited maybe 40 years or so, and one of those guys would have shown up and rescued us. And they're like, 40 years? You want to sit in the ship for 40 years waiting for one of those guys to find us? And he's like, yes, it's the safest way to live.
I mean, that's not untrue.
It's not untrue. So that's sort of the mentality of the puppeteers, is they want to do everything by the safest way, even if it's, like, not expedient or particularly useful.
Does 40 years matter when they have that stasis? Don't they have a thing where no time passes?
I don't know if the stasis field can operate for that long or not. I have no idea.
So they might just be 240 years old by the time they get rescued?
Well, he would be 240. I don't know how old the other things are. Anyway, they make fun of Nisus for having that idea because it's ludicrous. Then, after Teela wakes up, Speaker to Animals goes hunting, and Louis and Teela go off to have sex because...
Wasn't he just annoyed with her like 2 seconds ago?
This was like 2 chapters, Danielle.
It's still not very long ago.
They were flying for a long time. They talked it out.
Sure, okay.
So they go off to have sex, and they do this a lot in this book. They just have sex everywhere.
It's like every book you do, Sam.
There wasn't that much sex in Lords of the Sky.
Like they had to think about it. But they did, like, they went to the jail and they had sex there.
That's true, that's true.
We're traveling, they had sex there. They're on the ship.
Just because my books have adults and not teenagers doesn't mean that I'm a pervert.
Burn.
Yeah.
I see how this is going to go. I'm going to pick all teenage love triangles from now on.
All right, and then I'm going to pick the sexiest, unsexy books I can find.
Excellent.
Which this is because sci-fi writers are very good at many things, but writing compelling romance scenes is not one of them. Because I want to highlight a particular phrase that he uses, which I read and went, ugh. And that is, Teela impaled herself as she straddled his hips. Right?
That's a terrible verb.
Yeah, like impaled. Really? That's what you want to go with? That's not good. So that happens, and while they're mid-coitus, Speaker to Animals just runs through the little clearing where they are chasing a rabbit. So I thought that was cute.
Was he speaking to it?
Speaking to the rabbit?
Yeah, Speaker to Animals.
Okay, Danielle. The animals are humans. We've established this.
Oh, come on. It's a little funny.
He just runs through and is like, sorry, and keeps going. Oh, there's so many gross things he says. So I'm going to share another sentence he says about this, because again, if I had to read it, you're going to have to experience it too.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Seen through the glow of a building orgasm, a woman seems to blaze with angelic glory. So, that happened.
It's very dramatic.
I
like it.
It is. It's like,
ah!
All right. So let's just leave that whole thing behind.
That's the best part, though.
And so they get back, and they're talking about the natives, and Speaker Animal says, I think they're human, because they smell like humans.
Yeah, of course.
So they get back on their hover cycles, and they fly off, and they find this ruined city. It's a city that used to be floating in the air, but the power got cut off or whatever it is, and all the buildings crashed to the ground.
So the hover cycles, did the people creature things, did they not notice the hover cycles?
I don't think they
air?
saw them initially, because they like spied them and quickly turned around. Like they were high up in the air. Like
okay.
They also go like Mach 2, so they're fast.
That's good.
So they find this empty city. Clearly civilization has collapsed on this ring.
Yeah, they already were way ahead in their thoughts.
Yeah, I know. Somehow they got it right. And they fly through until they find this one tower that has people around it. And they land and they see, for instance, that the people are all humanoid. They're blonde and they have lots of hair. And they have big full beards and long hair that cover their faces so that only their eyes are visible, really.
Mm-hmm.
And 5 of the short humanoid creatures approach them and start talking to them in a language they don't understand.
So they don't have anything like Star Trek does where they're like not supposed to involve themselves in...
No, there is no prime directive here. They are involved, and you will see later just how involved these things get in each other's lives. It's amazing.
That seems questionable.
We'll see. But like Star Trek, they do have universal translators, which is the ship's autopilot. for some reason. Like the autopilot is the universal translator. I don't know. They have little comm badges on their wrists that communicate with the ship's autopilot that will eventually translate things. It takes a little while, it has to hear a bunch of the dialect, but eventually it starts translating.
It doesn't seem like the best system to have for a universal translator.
You know, Danielle, I don't know how to make one better than that, so.
Like, they're not standalone items. I mean, we have, like, cell phones that don't have to talk to a ship.
I don't know how complicated it is to understand an alien language in a few minutes, Danielle. Maybe it's more processing power they can cram onto a small comm badge. Okay. I don't know.
Well, again, Star Trek would say differently, as would most sci-fi.
They're always linked to their ship through their comm badges.
I know, but is it also doing the universal translation for them?
I think so.
Ooh, this is the question. If anybody knows.
To be fair, Star Trek just kind of ignores that entirely. They just assume everyone speaks English.
There's so much Star Trek legend and background that somebody out there must know.
I'm sure somebody will know if they've read the Star Trek Encyclopedia how the universal translator actually works. So yeah, let us know.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, sorry.
Anyway, that's the least important part of this.
No, but it's the most interesting part of it because universal translators sound amazing.
Yeah, they're great. And I like how that's the most interesting part of this so far is the universal translator, which is an old concept that's been around forever.
Oh, just like I'd never heard anybody say that one was connected specifically to another device that didn't function on its own, though perhaps that's often true and it's just not specifically stated.
Fair enough.
Anyway, that was what caught my attention.
So, of course, the natives mistake them for the Ringworld engineers as kind of like a religious figure, as gods.
The people who created the system, the planet, are not the same ones that are living there now.
I don't know. If they are, they have been so far removed from that time that they have forgotten their own history.
Okay.
And Louis eventually says something wrong. They're like, you have created the arch. You are the engineers. Like, arch? What arch? And he starts laughing because the ring looks like an arch because you can't see the back of it behind the sun. So if you just live on it and you didn't know it was a ring, it would look like an arch.
That makes sense.
And the natives don't take kindly to this and just start going after them, just like attacking them.
Which seems dramatic when they thought moments ago that they were the creators of it.
Yeah, no, they thought they were like demons or false gods or something when they don't know the basics of their religion.
Okay.
And so Louis gets punched in the nose and he's like, I'm not used to pain.
He's an explorer. He's never gotten into, like, trouble before.
So most people of his century had never felt pain more severe than that of a stubbed toe, according to the book, because their medical treatments and anesthetics are always at hand to heal them or numb the pain, so they never have to suffer pain for long.
Sure, but if they do feel it initially, like if you break your arm, it hurts.
It's quickly
until
forgotten.
It's fixed.
You know, it's like that whole thing with pregnancy. When you give birth, you forget about the pain because otherwise no one ever gives birth again.
Okay. Let's go with that.
I don't know. That's what we got, which I thought was weird, considering that they have gladiatorial fights to the death to reproduce. So it seems like those people would know what pain is.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could get it if you, like, have short-term pain and then it's quickly healed, but you still feel the initial pain. It seems confusing.
I don't know, Danielle. I'm just a vessel for this book to be explained through. I am not the interpreter of this book. Yes, exactly. So they start fighting. Speaker to Animals just goes hog wild, gutting people left and right.
Such a dramatic reaction.
I remember now that Louis had demonstrated a flashlight laser, and they're like, you fight with light? That's forbidden. And that's why they attack him.
Why is it forbidden?
Good question, Danielle. I don't know. They don't either. They're like, maybe there was some kind of taboo or some kind of war of light, and they've forbidden it, and it's become a religious doctrine.
Like shine flashlights at each other?
Yes, Danielle. No, they don't mean lasers or X-ray lasers or any of the other things that actually would be dangerous. They mean flashlights.
There was a flashlight tag game that got wildly out of control in the past.
All right. Well, in your fan fiction for Ringworld, you can make that happen.
If they're not going to explain why light's not allowed.
It's just dogma, Danielle. Does dogma ever make sense?
No.
There you go.
Maybe. What's the definition of dogma?
What am I, a theologist, Danielle? Come on. We don't have time for this.
Sorry. Okay. So no light wars.
No light weapons, essentially.
Got it.
Louis is bashing people's skulls in with the butt of his flashlight laser, and they're just getting all kinds of blood in. And Teela just takes off on the cycle, just floats up out of danger, and, quote, she had not thought of trying to help. So,
which is a shame because she's supposedly the luckiest.
Yeah, real helpful Teela. Really making out to be a valuable asset to the team.
She's kind of annoying.
She's really annoying in this part of the book. I don't know if it gets better, but like I said, you kind of start to hate her a little bit for being kind of useless. Useless and whiny and just privileged. It's kind of terrible.
I mean, you probably would be, though, if everything kind of worked out for you all of the time.
Yeah, I guess. And then you fly away.
And we haven't gotten to where the people who created the Ringworld went.
Oh, not even close.
Okay. So many questions, so few answers.
So at this point, Louis realizes, he's been thinking about the Starseed lore and everything, and realizes that the puppeteers have been living up to their name as puppeteers and have been interfering in the affairs of humans and Kizin for centuries. So he concludes that during the human-Kizin wars, where the Kizin were so far wiping humanity out, that the puppeteers surreptitiously arranged for the humans to be sold the technology about the hyperdrive that turned the war in their favor.
Why would that be a thought process?
Oh, okay. It's because of the Starseed lore. Because you realize they have Starseed lore, so they must have used the Starseed lore to lure the Starseed and the outsiders to the human colony to have them encounter each other and get the hyperspace drive.
Okay, this happens a lot in books and movies where, yes, that's
they just come to conclusions.
Yeah, like it's entirely a possible thing to happen. Like, yes.
And they just take it for gospel.
And they just,
absolutely.
they think that's something that's like, oh, that's it. And you're like, wait, what?
That happens a lot in this book. We're like, oh, this piece of information made me think this weird, complicated chain of events. That's totally true.
And it's not saying it's not true. It's quite possible that's what happened, but there's also alternate solutions.
Absolutely. Could be coincidence. Who knows? But Louis is speculating this is because the puppeteers had been previously contemplating annihilating the Kizin because they're too dangerous. Like they're scary and dangerous. They had to figure out a safe way to annihilate them. But instead they found a way to breed out the violent Kizin by making the most violent Kizin die in a war against humans they couldn't win. So only the ones who were more moderate would survive, and eventually they would get along and they'd have a species now that could coexist with other sentient aliens without trying to enslave or make war with them.
That is a seriously long game. Good job.
They do that a lot. So as Louis calls Nisus on the comm and says, hey, did you guys do this? And Nisus is like, yeah, that was us.
Like they're just chatting about it.
And Speaker to Animals overhears this and is pissed.
Yeah, that seems like not a conversation you'd want to be having in public.
Yeah, they accidentally had it over the open comm channel instead of a private comm channel because, you know, book's got a book.
It's like when you text everybody in a group text instead of just the one single person.
Yeah, it was like a reply all mistake. So
Rookie.
Speaker to Animals is really ticked off. He's like, how dare you do this genetic experiment on our people? How dare you try to control our breeding, control our evolution, involve us into something that's more what you want as opposed to what we are?
That's fair.
And Nisus starts just flying away. He just turns and scoots away as fast as he can away from the group. And Teela is like, hey, calm down. It worked, didn't it? They made a Kizin who was more comfortable living with people. So why are you so upset? It happened and it's all good. It worked out and we're all friends now.
Missing the point entirely.
And then it comes out that the Kizin and Louis conclude that not only had Nisus and his people interfered to direct the evolution of the Kizin, they've done the same for humans.
Yeah, of course. If they've done one, they've done them all.
Right. So Nisus and his people were the ones who set up the fertility board rules on the lottery because they want to breed lucky humans.
So everything in the entire world universe is set up by these guys.
Parts of it. That's why they're puppeteers, Danielle.
Right. So, and they set it up to breed for luckiness?
Yeah, because, to quote, we like humans, we trust humans, we have dealt profitably with humans. It's to our advantage to encourage humans. So they want to make humans better in some way. They couldn't make them more intelligent because they were fine the way they are. They couldn't, they didn't want them stronger. They're like, let's make them luckier, because then we can use their luck to our benefit.
They're also kind of vicious, humans are. They're not
but
breeding that out too, like they did with the Kentuckys?
I mean, this is more like the humans are not, they're largely peaceful in this universe. This is like Federation style humans.
Okay. But they want them to be luckier so that when they deal with them, they're getting the most out of that luck.
Yes, exactly right. So when the humans get to the Clouds of Magellan first, they'll have the luck to set up their place, and then the puppeteers can get there, and things will already be ready for them, essentially.
That's some wild planning.
Yeah, no, it's insane. And in fact, Nisus was the one who headed the project to make lucky humans.
Of course.
So,
of course he did.
Of course he was. And Teela immediately freaks out.
Oh, yeah. When it's her.
Yes! And Louis laughs at her for that, and she just cuts off the communication and goes pouting. And it's kind of hilarious. It's pretty, I gotta admit, I kind of love that in the book, where she's like, it's okay, it made the kissing better. Oh wait, it's me? That's not okay.
Even though it made her better, so arguably.
Yeah, so Louis eventually sort of cuts off comms with Nisus because he's ticked off too because they meddled in humans, and Nisus is off sort of by himself now, long, far away from the people, running away because he doesn't want to be around them and they don't want him around. And they fly for a while, no one talking to each other. Eventually they land because Louis wants to stretch his legs. Teela still won't talk to him. And Teela stalks off into the undergrowth and goes to find a pool with a waterfall that she can go bathe in because every chance to take off her clothes is given in this book.
I have a question.
Okay,
Why did Nisus tell them, agree? Yep, that's what we did.
I guess he thought they already could have figured it out, but he doesn't seem to lie all that much.
Mm-hmm,
I don't know if lying is something they do.
It just seems like a bad thing to tell the humans or the Kizzen.
It does seem like, yeah, that was totally us. But I think they had already come to their conclusions. Speaker to animals and those were convinced that's what the puppeteers did. And they were just telling, he's like, that's what you did, isn't it? Tell us,
Yeah, but he could just denied it. Nope. Definitely
Apparently that's
wasn't
not
me.
his style. He just ran away while saying, yep, that was us.
And not only that, it was me.
Well, Louis figures that out later. He doesn't tell Teela or Speaker to Animals that part.
Oh, okay. That doesn't make it better, but okay.
No.
So she's bathing naked.
And so Louis goes over to talk to Teela and is like, if I can convince Speaker to Animals to let Nisus rejoin us, will you agree? And she's like, no, at first. And then they talk and they have more sex under the waterfall. And there's a lot of that weird stuff going on. I don't know if I mentioned this, but Nisus at one point observes that humans copulate quite a lot and it's weird. And this book is making that very clear. And eventually he brings them around to the idea that, yes, they should let Nisus rejoin them because he has a plan. The next group of natives they encounter to pose as gods, with Speaker to Animals being the god, with Teela and himself being the acolytes, and with Nisus being the captured demon. And the reason they need Nisus is that they can offer threats through Speaker to Animals who can tear people apart. So that's like the stick. And the carrot is Nisus's task, which he can grant pleasure. So they can use that to sort of prove their godlyhood by granting pleasure or death.
I'm glad that's coming back into play, though. I was kind of hoping it was not going to.
So that's his plan. I don't know if it's ever actually realized, because by the time I finished this section of the book, they had still not rejoined Nisus. So.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
I don't want to come back down there. You guys are mean.
And so, for whatever reason, they can't just do that without Nisus. Why not just have Speaker to Animals be the god anyway and just go with it? But apparently they need Nisus.
It's better if they're all there.
They get back on their cycles and they start flying off again. They're still sort of headed towards the rim of the world, but, they're making these diversions to talk to people. And they see out in the distance a shiny glint. Not quite sure what it is.
Off in the distance, on the land?
Yeah, on the land.
Okay.
Not in space.
I was making sure.
And it's also getting cloudy and kind of stormy in this area, and they're flying around. Teela Brown just wallows in self-pity for a while.
Why do you always say her last name?
Because I don't know, it's like some people just give the whole name to.
Okay. Teela Brown.
Chester A. Arthur. You don't call him just Chester. Okay. Hey, Chesty, what's going on?
We'd already established that was a president I didn't realize existed.
That's why I brought him up. So, they're flying around, and as they're approaching this bright spot, Speaker to Animals zooms down to take a closer look and is immediately blasted by this bright light and is burned all over. His fur is burned. He's completely burned. He puts his hand over his eyes, luckily, so his eyes aren't singed out of his skull, and he flies back.
I thought they weren't supposed to use light weapons.
So what they have found is a field of sunflowers, what are called slaver sunflowers.
That glint?
Which are basically like regular sunflowers, but they have this reflective parabolic prism in the center instead of the seed bell.
That's creative.
And what it does is they are violent flowers. They use the focus beam of light reflected from the sun to incinerate anything that gets near them.
Like them.
Yeah, their whole thing is like, they're photosynthetic plants. Any animal, anything, any other plant is a threat to them because they don't need other animals. They don't need other plants. So they just like, anything that gets near us, we're going to incinerate them. They're only saved because of the fact that they have cloud cover protecting them from the full blast of the light hitting the sunflowers and focusing on them. So they quickly land in the field of sunflowers, and the sunflowers are like sort of leaning at them, trying to blast them, but there's no light to reflect.
It's my new favorite thing in this book.
The sunflowers? They're pretty great. And so they're speculating that maybe the ring people, like, why do they bring these dangerous sunflowers here? And they speculate that maybe they went and brought them from another planet as like a decorative thing and tried to keep them contained, but eventually after the fall of civilization, they got out and they're slowly taking over the planet, or the ring, I guess.
Why did they bring them to the ring at all?
They don't know, but like for decoration, maybe.
That seems like a terrible decoration.
Like, I agree. Not great,
like,
but
let's
here
put
they are.
Something that could kill us as a decorative item. It's like people who own
not
tires.
only kill them, but will actually like cause the extermination of every other thing on this ring eventually. They'll completely take over the entire ring, given enough time, according to Louis.
Yeah, that seems like a terrible idea.
Yeah, but here they are. And humans love introducing hostile species to environments where they shouldn't be. So,
I know, that's true. It's right on trend.
Right on brand.
On brand, that's the word.
Every time.
I know.
So they land, they apply some medicine to speaker to animals, and they dig a hole to hide in until night comes so they can safely get away from the sunflowers. And that's the interlude with the sunflowers.
Nothing happens with them after?
They just fly away, pretty much.
Do they come back?
Maybe? I don't know.
Just curious.
So they're flying away from the sunflowers, and they spot something else floating up in the sky, and it's this giant floating castle.
Okay.
That is floating over this ruined city. So apparently this castle has its own independent power supply and didn't collapse with the rest of the city like the previous city where they ran into the other people was.
Are there people in the castle?
No.
No, what's the point of the castle, Sam?
The point of the castle is they go up to it, and they can't find a way in, so they blast open a window, and they go inside, and they land in a big old dining hall that's massive. Like, this is a massive castle. It's 50-foot high dining hall. It's huge, and Louis and Teela go have sex in one of the beds because that's what they do.
Why?
That's what they do, Danielle. It's what they do.
There's so many other things to be doing.
Nope, but while they're having sex, Speaker to Animals is exploring the castle.
They don't need to Christian every new location with intimate behavior.
It feels like they're like dogs marking their territory. The first thing they do when they get to a new place is like, oh, haven't had sex in this place yet. Gotta make it happen.
Yeah, like, I'm sex positive. You go have sex. But do they really need to have it every single location they go to?
Also, I mean, you have more important things to be doing right now, like planning your survival and trying to uncover the mysteries
there's
of this
so
planet.
many more important things on your checklist that should be like towards the bottom, like after you've finished all the other things. They haven't even established if the castle's safe.
I mean, they explored a little bit before they go have sex, but yeah, pretty much.
It's not enough. You don't know anything about this land.
So as they're flying around the castle, before they get into it, they go underneath the castle and they see like these glass bottom pools that have the bones of what they call bandersnatches. So that's cute. Creatures that were brought from other planets. So they're like, oh, it looks like our theory is correct, that they've been bringing animals from other parts of the universe when they built this place as curiosities, as pets, whatever.
As like a zoo?
Yeah. Well, it's like the creators seem to be populating this world. Like, when you make a new world, you can put whatever you want in it. You don't have to just keep the thing, like, they didn't bring any mosquitoes. They didn't bring anything that was dangerous, but they brought the other things that they thought were fun or interesting.
And the sunflowers that kill people.
Like I said, maybe they thought they were fun or interesting and didn't want them to get out, and then when civilization collapsed, they were no longer contained.
They are both fun and interesting, but you should really have a plan in place in case civilization collapses.
You would ideally think that, but does any civilization have a plan in place for its own collapse?
No, but they should.
All right. Well, you can join the preppers then, Danielle, and get your bunker built.
You don't know that I'm not a prepper already.
I kind of do, because it takes a lot of work that you're not willing to put in.
I actually know a prepper, so I just would go with them.
I think my point stands.
They're like a low-key prepper. They're on my zombie list.
Great. Glad to hear it. Anyway, so eventually Louis gets up and he goes to a speaker who shows them a map room, which is a giant map of the ring, like a holographic map of the ring.
The map room has a map in it?
It's great, Danielle. The whole chapter is called The Map Room, so we're in for it.
You love maps.
I do love maps. Unfortunately, we don't get a drawing of this map in this book.
No, it's so sad.
Yeah, I know. So they're zooming around the map, and eventually they realize it isn't a live feed map. It's like a taped map. Like, it uses tape. Because, again, 70s, everything was on tape. Optical storage or other forms of data storage were not considered. Had to be tape.
So this is like a 3-dimensional map.
Yeah, it's a holographic map. That is of a certain point in time. And they're looking around. They see around the rim of the ring, there's this transportation network on the rim for accelerating people around the ring. So with this thing, you could spend 10 days to get across the entire ring, which is remarkably fast. So linear accelerator. And they see that there used to be cities around the rim and spaceports, and everything is just as they assumed it was.
Of course.
So good on them. But what they can't find is that giant mountain, the Fist of God, as it's called, that they left behind when they crashed. So they can't find it on the map.
That's suspicious.
Yeah, so it might be something new. And it seems like ginormous and kind of out of place.
Is it a trash pile?
A trash pile thousands of miles big.
You never know. I don't know what happened on Ringworld. You don't know what happened on Ringworld.
No one knows what happened on Ringworld, Danielle. That's the point.
So it could be a trash pile.
So far, no idea, but I don't think it's a trash pile.
Okay. Is it alive? Is it a live mountain?
It's a mountain, Danielle. I don't know what you mean.
Like a mountain creature that's like looks like a mountain, but in reality is a creature?
No, it's a mountain.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
I'm just trying to guess.
I appreciate that. So they also find a throne room type place in this castle, obviously, like a giant throne that you can sit on and control, and it has a giant sculpture of a humanoid-looking person who's entirely hairless, and they conclude this must have been a seat of government. This was a floating castle, like a floating White House, or a floating House of Parliament that would fly around being the governmental seat of power.
So it was a statue, you said? The hairless?
It's like a sculpture of like metal wire that resembled a person.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a throne for a second, and I was a little thrown off.
There was a throne.
No, but it was not the throne.
The throne is not the sculpture.
Got it.
The throne is the throne.
I was like, well, that's an interesting choice.
So like everything pointed to it being the seat of government. The throne, the banquet hall, the unique windows, which I forget what they're so unique about them, but they are windows.
It being a castle.
It being a castle. Again, the floating castle itself is in there, so yeah. And while Louis is looking at one of the windows, he starts to see this wire fall from the sky. It's our old friend, the shadow square wire they ran into earlier that had broken when they crashed into it.
Oh, the helicopter wire.
Yeah, it had followed them down and had started piling up.
Wait, is it? It's not sentient, right? It just like fell from the sky.
Yeah, it's 6 million miles of wire.
Okay. I was like, wait.
It followed them in the sense that, like, it drifted with them and their ship while it crashed to the Earth.
And it conveniently landed right when they were at the castle.
Well, it's like, it's been continually following. He just noticed it.
Oh, okay.
It's a very thin wire, Danielle. It's hard to see with the naked eye.
But they see it.
He sees it, yes. At one point, Teela luckily discovers that the stairs are like escalators. They move up if you hit the right button on the banister to make them move up, so she doesn't have to walk up the stairs. So she gets lucky for that. And Louis is a little miffed that he had to walk up 10 flights of stairs.
It's so stupid.
Yeah, it's great.
Like the littlest stuff.
And so at this point, Louis is seeing that this is definitely a collapse of civilization.
But not a single person thought, maybe we should destroy the sunflowers.
Probably not their biggest priority at this point. I don't think they were a threat at this point. Maybe they didn't start propagating for thousands of years after the collapse of civilization.
See if they'd had a checklist of things that they're supposed to do once their civilization collapsed.
All right, Danielle. Well, you can go back in time to this fictional universe and set these people up with a checklist.
I'm just saying, solve them a lot of problems.
Also, Louis, he's in the dining hall and he realized that, they could have brought whatever they wanted to this planet and left whatever they wanted behind. So they probably didn't bring diseases with them or bacteria, only the colonic bacteria that lives in your gut. And so what could have happened is after millennia or centuries, however long, without having any diseases, their immune systems would be completely unprepared to handle anything. And one of their colonic bacteria could have mutated and wiped them all out.
Let me guess. That's correct.
I don't know yet, but it's a remarkably specific idea.
It's like so specific.
He's just sitting in the dining hall thinking about food. He's like, oh, there are bacteria in the gut. Maybe these people die from bacteria. We get sick from bacteria in our gut all the time. Like E. coli lives in our gut generally pretty well, and if it gets to the wrong place, it causes problems. So our immune systems still need to be prepared for that kind of thing. So it's kind of silly.
Is everything just, when it was brought to this planet, is it all like contaminated?
Yeah.
Again,
good question, Danielle. I don't have an answer for how that civilization operated.
Because otherwise, all those things would also have new sorts of your body just naturally makes stuff.
That's a very
creatures naturally
that's
have
what
things
I'm saying.
on them.
They have
naturally
gut
make
bacteria. Like unless you have an amazing sanitary system, you can get sick just from your own bacteria in your body getting to the wrong place.
Yeah.
So I agree. It's kind of nonsense.
It's science nonsense. I'm calling it.
I agree. So he mentioned that the wire's been falling, and then they hear singing because beneath them in this public square has gathered a bunch of people, and there's like a priest conducting a choir.
Why?
It's like a church hymn they're singing. They're like praying to the castle.
As they do regularly, apparently.
They speculate on that. They say maybe it is a regular thing, or maybe they saw them fly over and are now expecting a miracle, or they saw the wire fall and they're, who knows?
So they're singing.
So Louis decides to go down and they abandon the idea to play God immediately because
it was such a good plan.
It was such a good plan. But Speaker to Animals doesn't look very impressive since all his fur was burned off by the sunflower. It looks like a naked pink thing.
That's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So he just goes down by himself. And he's like, Teela, you stay here with Speaker to Animals and check out the map room since you haven't seen it yet. And he goes down to talk to the priest dude who is speaking to him. And they start talking. And the priest guy's like, kind of on board with him not being a god. Like he's like, you have some hair on your head. You're not completely hairless. So I don't think you're one of the engineers. But he's like, oh, but I also don't have a beard. So I also kind of look like an engineer that way. Uh-huh. So he's kind of partly hairless. So they think he's like a demigod kind of thing.
Sure, why not?
And as he's landing, he's here listening to the song. It's like a church hymn. It's church music, slow and solemn and repetitive without harmony. So sounds good.
Good
but
old
it had
church
grandeur.
music.
Yeah. And he caught himself as he was about to join in the singing. That's not a good idea. And I'm like, no, it's not. Don't start singing church hymns you don't know with random things, because that did so well for you last time you tried to be a religious person. They all attacked you.
Why would you join in on something you have no idea what the context is?
Because he's not that bright. I don't know.
He doesn't have Teela with him.
So they talk for a while, and the priest seems more concerned that they're going to steal his congregation. And they're talking in the engineer's language.
Why are they stealing the congregation?
He doesn't know. He thinks like, are you guys here to depose false priests or to supplant me as the leader or something?
Is he a false priest? Is he worried about it?
Looks like we don't care about any of that. We don't care about you or your people. It doesn't bother us. We don't care. I just want to know, do you know anything about what's between here and the rim of the world? And he's like, the rim of the world? What are you talking about? Because again, it's like 400,000 miles away.
Right.
He's like, do you know what happened to the fall of civilization? And the priest is like, wait, civilization's going to fall? What are you talking about? I'm like, that's a very good point.
Him so many things.
You wouldn't know about the past civilization.
You wouldn't, and there are better open-ended questions to ask to glean how much knowledge somebody has without specifically telling them that they're the end of the civilization.
He's without tact or subtlety.
That's terrible. How is he a professional adventurer?
I know, it's questionable. We do learn from the priest that there was this ruler called Zwiller, Zrillir, who ruled and threw fire from his castle as punishment for those who defied him. And eventually, he could no longer throw fire, and people rose up against him until Zwiller fled the castle. And now we feel kind of bad that he left because we miss him, because we have no one to lead us and nothing works anymore.
They couldn't put a new leader in.
Apparently the whole idea was everything started failing. Zwiller's castle didn't work anymore. He no longer had his power. And so civilization was collapsing for a while, and eventually they deposed the leaders. And so either there was a caste system with the upper caste and the lower caste, I'm guessing, or there were two different species.
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle of all of this talking, suddenly the universal translator on his wrist starts blaring out, "You are using a restricted wavelength in violation," and it goes staticky, and eventually they're getting these weird messages about restricted wavelength, and suddenly the translator communicator on his wrist gets very hot and starts burning him, and he rips it off and it melts.
Wait, why?
They don't know what it is, but they think that maybe some automated system had detected their transmissions.
Sure. I mean, I got how they might get an alert. I don't understand why it got hot and then they had to take it off.
Because whatever the device was, whatever the automated defense system was, managed to cause something to happen in the radio and made it burn up.
That's pretty impressive.
I don't know the answer, Danielle. It just happens.
Okay.
So he flies away back up to the castle to get Teela and Speaker. He burned his hand. Speaker burned his hand. Teela was fine because hers was in a little box instead of on her wrist.
Of course she is. How are her feet, by the way, now that she's stepped on
They're
some
fine.
lava?
She just got them a little burned. It wasn't like they were mutilated.
Okay. Well, it seems like it'd be hard to walk on him after that.
So they fly away.
Ignoring that entirely, as usual.
Danielle, please. We're almost done.
Okay.
They fly away. Louis calls Nisus privately and mentions the colonic bacteria idea, and Nisus is like, yeah, it's possible. They speculate that the fall of civilization happened when they lost the ability for free transmutation, because there are no metal ores on the planet, and the soil is only like so thick before it hits the ring material, which is not mineable, so they must have transmuted whatever they want to make in metals from, other materials, so they don't have stockpiles.
Their first thought process is that they had the ability to transmutate.
Yeah, they knew that already. They speculated already they could transmutate to make this magical material.
That was their first thought, that must be where it came from, is transmutation?
Yeah. Transmutation is a well-known technology in this universe, Danielle.
Oh, okay.
So they speculate that they lost the ability to transmute, and so civilization started to collapse. So much like you said, it was a lack of planning ahead.
See? Told you.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm always right, Sam.
Gonna leave that one. So as they're flying, they see this storm out in the distance, and as they get closer to it, they start to freak out because it looks like a giant human eye staring at them.
Ooh, creepy.
And they all have this sort of religious experience where it's like, it looks like a human eye, it's like it's staring into their soul, and Speaker to Animal's like, I gotta fly through it. And like, Speaker, why would it go around it? And he's like, this is an honor thing, because back when we were losing the human kids in wars, there was this religious zealot, this heretic, who started a religion based around the idea that humans were the chosen ones of God. That's why they were winning. And so they would wear the skin of humans on their faces to try to trick the god into thinking they're humans and would favor them to win a war.
Sure, why not?
And so I have to prove that God isn't a human thing by flying into that giant godlike eye.
I think he's just mad that he found out he was bred to passivity.
I mean, he's still mad about that too, but that's a whole other... He's mad about a lot of things, Danielle.
Some of them fair.
So Louis calls Nisus and says, hey, what's up with this eye? And they talk for a bit, and eventually it comes out that Nisus thinks it's just a regular storm. So it's like a hurricane, but it's sideways, because unlike the Coriolis effects of Earth where we're spinning, since the ring isn't spinning like that, it would actually create a vertical hurricane. And if there was a hole punched in the ring by like a meteorite, and air was starting to drain through it to create a low pressure zone, that would start causing this sideways hurricane to form.
Their first science ideas are always
they are
wild,
spectacular at coming with hypotheses. I gotta say,
that's amazing.
So they all decide to fly into the eye of the storm to investigate if there really is a puncture in the ring where air is draining out, because, that would be bad. And so they get closer and they realize that, of course, it is just a storm, not an actual human eye. It just looks like one because like a sideways hurricane.
Because it's the eye of the storm.
Eye of the storm, you got it. That's the name of the chapter, the eye of the storm. And so eventually Teela decides just to fly closer down to where the air sink is, the hole. And she's like, oh God, I'm being sucked down. It's got me. And no one can get near her because they don't want to be sucked into it too. It's be like a whirlpool kind of thing. And so she starts bleeding from her nose and eventually passes out from anoxia. Mm-hmm. And she passes out and her forehead slams into her control panel and just so happens to hit the right button, so she zooms out of the storm at Mach 4 towards safety.
Lucky genes, though, really maybe half lucky, because otherwise she wouldn't have passed out in the first place.
Well, again, who knows what the end goal is, Danielle?
I know. I agreed with that at the beginning.
So apparently, there wasn't just her forehead that did this. Apparently, before she could activate this emergency control, she'd have to have pushed another control earlier. She just happened to do that while fiddling around before getting here, and then slammed her forehead on, which activated the emergency control to get her out of there. So, Teela Brown, kind of lucky. And so the only thing they can do is wait for her to wake up so they can radio to her to tell her how to stop the cycle from speeding off at Mach 4 in a random direction. And that's the end of the chapter. Teela Brown zooming off to unknown adventures. And in fact, the next chapter that we will be talking about is The Perils of Teela Brown.
Excellent. We needed to know more about her.
So that's where we'll pick up next time. I hope part 2 cleared up some things for you about part 1 that weren't clear.
Sure, like that the Ringworld's an anomaly.
You got that. It really does seem like there are more questions than answers at this point.
Yeah, I have way more questions. There's not I don't know if that actually answered anything.
I'm still impressed that every idea they seem to come up with is the right idea.
Yeah, that's amazing to me.
Well, bacteria from the gut killed them all off. Maybe something else. I don't know. But yeah, they're remarkable at just leaping to the correct conclusions.
That'd be a nice skill to have. It's probably because they have Teela Brown on their side.
But she comes up with no ideas.
No, but she's just there, so her lucky genes are making them come up with the correct ideas.
She is unfortunately treated just there to be a sex object and a lucky charm. So,
well, it seems to be working out well for her, if that's her soul.
Yeah, no, this book is not great with its female character. And I say character, not characters, unfortunately.
There's just one.
Just one. So any speculation what's going to happen next time, Danielle?
Okay.
Do you agree that all their conclusions are correct, or do you think they're going to be proven wrong?
No, I think all of their conclusions are correct. And
That's probably a safe bet.
And I don't know. I don't know where this book is going at all. Like, what's the point of this book?
So that is one of the things I remember most from reading this book. Even when I got to the end, was like, what was the arc of this book? Like, the story arc is very flat.
Yeah, I think of things in terms of arcs, and I don't understand. This book doesn't seem like it's going anywhere.
Well, so that's kind of like I was talking about at the beginning. This is a book about exploration. The whole point of the book is, hey, look at this weird new thing. Hey, look at this weird new thing. And the characters are just sort of there to facilitate the reader getting to know these clever little ideas about a ring world or like a civilization or this alien civilization, how it works.
Yeah, so with that in mind, I guess my best estimate as to what's going to happen is they're going to learn more about the ring world. And he's going to get his ship. And they'll get his big ship at the end. And
do you think they're actually going to get off the ring world? Do you think they're actually going to figure out a way to get their ship out of there?
I would like to think so, because that's how plots usually go.
They might just settle on the ring world and take over as gods.
Maybe they'll just hang out and chill there and restart the ring world.
I honestly don't remember what happened. I remember what happens to one person.
Yeah, maybe they just hang out in the flying castle and the moving castle and decide to take over Ringworld and become gods.
That's pretty cool.
Sure. Seems just as likely as actually leaving Ringworld. Maybe they find a luring plant thing and they wait 40 years and get picked up by a passing...
A starseed lure?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that thing. I'm sure that'll happen.
Well, they're like evil maybe they use the evil sunflowers for something.
That'd be kind of neat if those came back.
Yeah, but if they have evil sunflowers, maybe they also have the star lure thing.
Starseed lure.
Yeah, I don't know why I can't remember that.
It's 3 words, Danielle. It shouldn't be that hard.
Even though I said it so much in the beginning because I really liked it.
Actually 2 words, because starseed is 1 word.
Starseed. Maybe that'll make me remember.
I don't think it will.
No, I don't think so either.
Next week is going to be real interesting hearing you recap this section.
Well, more happens in this section.
Kinda. I mean, does more happen of consequence? I don't know. We'll find out what you remember next week. Until then, if you want to explain to us the finer points of universal translators in different science fiction genres, please write to us. Or if you want to speculate on how hypotheses like these can be jumped to with such accuracy by these people, also write to us. I'd love to know how they're always right about everything. Yeah, I'm actually super interested in the universal translators, so feel free to reach out to us at bookretorts.com. Or you can find us at Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook at bookretorts. Definitely let us know your thoughts about the Ringworld and the characters, or really anything. We're not picky. We're not picky. Anything you want to tell us, feel free. We're here for you. That's right. And until next week, when we'll finally have the conclusion of Ringworld, bye. Take care, everybody. Do you remember that commercial from the 90s? No. It was when the, I don't know, Cheesemakers of America were trying to get their product. I don't know, it's probably like the same people who did the Got Milk campaign. And it was You have to advertise cheese. Hey, it's cheese. You know what it is. Eat it. I forget what the commercial was for other than maybe cheese, but it was about the politician who's running for office and says something about not liking cheese, I think. And then the front page. Hey, America, did you forget what cheese is? Here's a commercial to remind you. And the front page of the paper does one of those, like, extra, extra, read all about it. And it says, he's no Gouda on the front page of the newspaper. Wow, that really stuck with you, Danielle. It's a really good commercial.